In the previous video, we finished the story of Ögedei Khan's ascension to the throne, implementing new policies, and launching military campaigns to conquer the Jin and the Song dynasties. If you haven't watched it yet, please click the link to enjoy. Next, we will talk about Ögedei Khan's second Western expedition, his governance of the Central Plain, and his later years. Stay tuned for the exciting content. After ascending to the throne, Ögedei Khan immediately turned his attention to the resurgent Khwarezmian Empire, dispatching Khan with an army of 30,000 to quickly subdue Jalal ad-Din and his remaining forces. In the winter of 1230, the Mongol cavalry arrived at the city of Azerbaijan, forcing Jalal ad-Din to flee alone into the Mugan plain. During his escape, he was eventually killed by a peasant in the mountains of Diyarbakir. Seizing the opportunity, Khan continued to attack and plunder many regions in northwestern Persia, further expanding the Mongol Empire's influence. In the spring of 1235, Ögedei Khan summoned the nobles of the Mongol Empire to his grand tent, where he announced a major decision to conquer those countries that had not yet submitted, such as the Kipchak and Volga Bulgars. Ögedei Khan ordered each royal family to send their eldest sons to lead the expeditionary forces, including the Noyans of all levels below 10,000 households, who were also required to send their eldest sons. On the vast plains, a huge army quietly assembled. This expeditionary force was led by Bachu Khan, with his capable assistant Subutai serving as the actual commander. They led about 150,000 warriors, marching resolutely towards the unyielding countries. As the army marched across the Mongolian plains, the golden sunlight shone upon the warriors, and their determined eyes revealed fearlessness and courage. Within this army, countless young Mongol leaders, like their fathers before them, bore the responsibility of defending their homeland and leading their troops into battle. In the spring of 1236, the Mongol princes, along with generals like Subutai, mounted their tall warhorses and led their soldiers on the expedition as the autumn wind blew. The Mongol army reached Bulgar, where they joined Bachu Khan and his brothers. Subutai took the lead, swiftly capturing Bulgar. After discussing with the princes, they each led their own troops to continue the assault. The Mongol army broke through Bulgar's capital, slaughtered and plundered, and then set the city ablaze. In the winter of the same year, Monkey's army approached the Kipchak tribe near the lower Itil River. The Kipchak leader Khwarezm had already sent envoys to offer tribute and seek peace, and the Mongol army arrived just in time. Khwarezm's heir Baidar surrendered with his followers. However, another Kipchak leader, Bokman, bravely resisted and refused to surrender. He hid with his followers in the dense forests near the lower Itil River, and occasionally attacked the Mongol forces. In the spring of 1237, with Subutai's reinforcements, Menki finally defeated Bokman and annihilated the Kipchak army. Bokman was captured and later executed. The Mongol army displayed their bravery and ruthlessness in this battle, expanding the territory of the Mongol Empire and consolidating Ögedei Khan's rule. In the autumn of 1237, Bachu and the other princes held a Kurultai among the golden fallen leaves. After intense discussions, they decided to jointly invade the Volga Bulgars. The Mongol army successively conquered Moldova and then besieged Yelabuga. After 6 days of bloody battle, the city walls finally collapsed, and none of the nobles, soldiers, or residents survived. The entire city was reduced to ashes. At the beginning of 1238, the Mongol army divided into 4 groups, sweeping across the Volga Bulgars like a hurricane. Within a short month, they captured more than 10 cities, including Kolmogorye, Moscow, and Rostov. In February, the Mongol army attacked the capital city of Vladimir. The Mongol forces used captured Volga Bulgars as the vanguard to siege the city, finally breaking through the strong walls after 5 days of intense fighting. The Mongol army then pillaged and indiscriminately slaughtered the inhabitants of the city. The Grand Duke's family and other nobles sought refuge in a church, but they were ultimately consumed by the relentless flames. Subsequently, the Mongol army attacked the Grand Duke's camp by the city river. After a fierce battle, the enemy forces were wiped out, The Grand Duke of the Volga Bulgars died heroically on the battlefield. The Mongol army swept through the south like a storm, successively plundering Smolensk, Chernigov, and other places, and continued to expand their territory in the western part of the Kipchak steppes. Kipchak leader Kutu Khan was defeated in battle, and had no choice but to lead the remnants of his people to Hungary. In 1239, Menki and Gaik led their army into Volhynia Kingdom, and after 3 months of fierce battle, finally captured its capital city of Nechet. Alania's ruler Hankukas had no choice but to surrender, and Menki ordered him to provide troops for the Mongol army. At this time, Bachu led his army to conquer various regions east of the Haitil River, and rested his troops and horses on the Kipchak steppes. In 1239, he once again sent his troops into the Volga Bulgars for plundering. In the autumn of the following year, Bachu personally led his army to besiege the Volga Bulgar fortress of Kuba. The Mongol army charged into the city like a tiger descending from a mountain, launching a brutal slaughter of the residents. Subsequently, the Mongol army invaded the Gallic kingdom, successively capturing its capital city of Vladimir Volinsky and other cities. In the spring of 1240, Menki and Gaik continued to fight in the northern Caucasus. In the autumn, Ögedei Khan sent envoys to recall Gaik and Menki back to the east. In the spring of 1241, the Mongol army split into 2 routes. Like 2 sharp blades, one route, led by Bayu and Uriankadai, targeted Poland, while the other route, commanded by Bachu and his brothers, as well as Subutai, fiercely attacked Hungary. The Mongol cavalry swept across Poland, capturing Krakow and reducing the city to ashes. They then bravely crossed the Oder River. Poland's Duke Henry assembled a force of Polish, German crusaders, and Teutonic knights, totaling 30,000 troops, vowing to resist to the death. However, the Mongol army cunningly avoided direct confrontation, launching surprise attacks from the flanks and defeating the enemy forces, eventually killing Henry. Subsequently, the Mongol army expanded southward, invading Moravia and rendezvousing with Batu's forces in Mohi. Bachu led the army in a 3-pronged attack on Mohi. In March of the same year, they arrived near the Hungarian capital, Budapest. The Hungarian army was defeated after a fierce battle, and the Mongol forces captured Budapest, indiscriminately killing the city's inhabitants and reducing the entire city to scorched earth. These series of battles further expanded the scope of the Mongol Empire's influence. When the news of Ögedei Khan's death reached the Western Expedition Camp, Bachu led the army to return eastward. The series of battles further expanded the scope of the Mongol Empire's influence. However, Ögedei's death also symbolized a temporary halt to the Mongol Empire's war machine, and Bachu and his army had to withdraw and return east. During Ögedei's lifetime, in addition to endless conquests, he also paid great attention to the governance of the Central Plains region. Under the advice of Yelut Chikai, he began to focus on protecting and saving the population. In 1232, when Ögedei was campaigning in Hunan, he generously agreed to produce hundreds of banners to give to the surrendered people, allowing them to return to their hometowns and rebuild their homes. In early 1233, Subutai led an army to capture Byeonjing Kaifeng, which had resisted fiercely according to Mongol customs. It should have been subjected to a massacre. However, under the repeated persuasion of Yelut Chikai, Ögedei finally decided to hold only the Jin royal family accountable, avoiding the involvement of innocent civilians. In 1235, Ögedei ordered the start of the household registration work in the Central Plains region, which was overseen by Shiji Kutak, aced with the suggestion from courtiers to levy taxes based on the Mongol and Western regions' established laws. Ögedei chose to follow Yelut Chikai's advice and adopt the traditional Central Plains system of levying taxes based on households. In addition, Ögedei retained the Central Plains county system based on the household registration. Ögedei allowed Yelut Chikai to draft a taxation system for the Central Plains, which also included some miscellaneous services. This relatively mild tax quota was beneficial for the recovery and development of the Central Plains region, which had already suffered from war. Ögedei was very interested in Confucianism and often invited Yelu Chukai to explain the teachings of Zhou and Confucius. Under Yelu Chukai's guidance, Ögedei realized the truth that the world can be conquered on horseback, but it cannot be governed on horseback. He also invited famous Confucian scholars to explain Confucian classics to the crown prince, kings, and ministers' descendants. During the attack on Beijing, Yelu Chukai successfully introduced the 51st generation descendant of Confucius, Huang Yuanquan, who was granted the title of Yanqing Gong by Ögedei. In 1237, Ögedei accepted Yelu Chukai's suggestion to establish a national school and hold imperial examinations. A total of 4,030 Confucian scholars passed the exam, a quarter of whom were originally slaves and only freed from their servitude after passing the exam. Confucian scholars who passed the imperial examination were exempt from taxes, and outstanding ones were given official positions. Yelu Chukai also established the editing and compilation bureau in Yanjing and the Institute of Classics in Hai, responsible for editing and publishing historical and classical books. These efforts played a positive role in preserving the traditional culture of the Central Plains. Ögedei set up judicial officials in places like Yanjing and dispatched Dairagochi's Mongol regional governors to regional governments and counties to strengthen the rule over the Central Plains region. In addition, Ögedei ordered the 5 divisions of the Tama to be stationed in locations such as Zhending, Daming, Donghu, Yidu, Jinan, Pingyang, and Taiyuan to ensure local stability and security. Through the above measures, Ögedei significantly strengthened the Mongol rule over the Central Plains region, allowing this war-torn land to recover and rejuvenate. At the same time, he worked hard to integrate the traditional culture of the Central Plains, enabling the Mongol Empire to better govern the conquered land and maintain relative stability in the region during this period. Starting in 1235, Ögedei ordered the construction of the Khonbolik and Lin imperial palaces, demonstrating his respect for and integration of Chinese traditional culture. The following year, the Wanan Palace in Khonbolik and Lin was completed. This palace followed the traditional Chinese architectural style and was magnificent. The Great Khan's throne was located in the north of the main hall, facing south, fully showcasing the dignity and authority of the royal family. In 1237, Ögedei commanded Islamic craftsmen to build the Gagan Chahan Palace at the Spring Hunting Ground, located 70 li north of Khonbolik and Lin. This palace combined Islamic architectural style with Chinese traditional style, reflecting the Mongol Empire's inclusiveness and openness in terms of cultural integration. Subsequently, in 1238, the Tusig Hayan Palace was constructed south of the city. This palace served as a venue for receiving foreign diplomats and grand celebrations. Although Ögedei Khan was excellent in both civil administration and military prowess, appearing to be a great Khan, he also had some hidden dark aspects. One day in June 1237, in the village of the Wirat tribe, people were buzzing with rumors. It was said that there was an imperial edict to send the young girls of the village to be consorts. Many families, in panic, hastily arranged marriages for their daughters, with some even sending their daughters directly to the grooms' homes. All of this soon reached Ögedei Khan's ears. Upon hearing this, Ögedei Khan was furious, believing it to be a misinterpretation and betrayal of his edict. He then ordered that all girls over the age of 7 be gathered, and married women be reclaimed from their husbands' homes soon. 4,000 young girls were assembled in one place, under Ögedei Khan's command. The soldiers publicly humiliated these young girls. 2 of them died on the spot, while the rest were divided into several groups. Some were sent to the palace. Some were given as rewards to servants. Some were sent to brothels and diplomatic residences to serve travelers, and others were taken away by people present. The relatives of these young girls could only stand by silently, not daring to cry or complain. However, it was not only these atrocities, but also the fratricide. Ögedei Khan's control over Mongolian court politics was equally filled with cruelty and conspiracy. His 4th brother, Tolui, had always been a potential threat to his position as Khan. Tolui held 80% of the Mongolian army and had strong military power. In the campaign against the Jin dynasty, Tolui demonstrated outstanding military talent, undoubtedly arousing Ögedei Khan's alertness and jealousy. Once, on his way back to the north, Ögedei Khan played tricks. Pretending to be critically ill, loyal Tolui attended to him by his side. A shaman chanted spells, purifying Ögedei Khan's illness into a wooden cup. Tolui, who deeply loved his brother, picked up the cup and prayed silently. He drank the water purified by the shaman. However, the water he drank was poisoned by Ögedei Khan. A few days later, Tolui died from the poisoning with the help of superstition. Ögedei Khan successfully eliminated his greatest political enemy, consolidating his position. Ögedei Khan's death was not accidental, but rather a result of his own actions after the destruction of the Jin dynasty. Ögedei Khan began to believe that life should be about enjoying happiness and pursuing fame. Gradually distancing himself from warfare and conquests, he became addicted to wine and sensual pleasures. Seeking momentary happiness, his life became debauched and unrestrained. Indulging in endless feasts and the embrace of beautiful women, Yuan tried many times to persuade Ögedei Khan to quit drinking so as not to harm his health and affect his politics. He even used a wine trough corroded by alcohol to prove to Ögedei Khan that even the hard iron could be eroded by wine, let alone the human body. However, Ögedei Khan was stubborn in character, unable to quit his alcohol addiction, and still focused on hunting and pleasure, paying less and less attention to the affairs of state. Such behavior caused Ögedei Khan to lose the prestige he should have had during his reign and made the politics of the Mongol Empire chaotic. Ögedei Khan, blindly pursuing pleasure, gradually lost his direction, alienated loyal officials, and ultimately brought negative impacts on the development and prosperity of the Mongol Empire. In February 1241, Ögedei Khan fell seriously ill after a drinking binge. After treatment by the imperial physician and advice from Yuan, he temporarily stopped hunting and heavy drinking. However, after several days of recuperation, his health gradually improved, and he once again focused on hunting and enjoyment. In November, during the harsh winter, Ögedei Khan went hunting again, returning to the Ögedei mountains after 5 days of horseback archery. He watched singing and dancing in his tent, spent time with the singers, and drank fine wine until late into the night. However, the next morning, attendants found that Ögedei Khan had suffered a stroke and lost the ability to speak. Soon after, he died in the traveling palace at the age of 56, having reigned for 13 years. Ögedei Khan's body was buried in the Kairan Valley, and he was posthumously honored as the emperor of great accomplishment, with the temple named Taizong. The death of Ögedei Khan marked the end of his tragic life. Although he had some successful achievements during his reign, his debauched lifestyle and lust for power ultimately led to his failure in both politics and personal life. Ögedei Khan, the second great Khan of the Mongol Empire, demonstrated the rise of the Mongol Empire in both military and political spheres under his rule. He successfully annihilated the Jin dynasty and effectively governed the Central Plains region, embracing diversity and respecting local culture. However, he was overly indulgent in pleasure and ruthlessly cruel to his brothers and political rivals. Ögedei Khan's life serves as a warning to the world. While pursuing success and power, self-restraint and cultivation of character should not be neglected, lest one walks the path of self-destruct. In our next video, we will share the story of Genghis Khan's fourth son, Tolui. Please look forward to the content of the next episode. If you like this story, please help me by subscribing and sharing. Thank you.